we need to talk about AI video. Feels like only last year that we're being wowed by AI-generated images with misshapen hands and questionable expressions. Wait, that was last year. Well, now it's video's turn, and I've been diving into Runway's Gen3, one of a few video models that's been doing the rounds recently, but it's the first that is publicly available. Is this the future of video? To answer that question, I've spent 2 days creating a fully AI-generated film. I'm talking script, I'm talking voiceover, imagery. See for yourself.
From a small seed, growth begins. This is how ideas start, fragile, yet full of potential. Innovation is like a young sapling, bending but not breaking. Every challenge it faces makes it stronger. The path to creation is filled with drafts and discarded plans. Each failure is a step forward, a lesson learned. In the artist's studio, every mistake is an opportunity for something new. Creativity thrives on the unexpected. Consider children at play. They build, they stumble, and they build again. Their failures are part of their play, part of their learning. Every new day brings a fresh start, a new chance to innovate and grow. Each failure is not an end, but a new beginning. From every failure, something beautiful can grow. The tree stands tall, a testament to its resilience. Across every field and every endeavor, we learn through our failures. We innovate by trying again and again. The power of learning is boundless. It transforms failures into stepping stones, turning challenges into opportunities. Through learning, we unlock the true potential of innovation. Together we rise, we grow, and we learn to change.
We see how I did it? Okay, here we go. So we started in ChatGPT, and I wanted to do a kind of vision piece based around innovation and learning and all that fun stuff. So here we go. Here was my chat. Let's go back to the beginning. And I literally said, I'm making a short film, about a minute long. It's going to be about learning and innovation. I need your help developing the script. I want it to be poetic and beautifully written, something that is expressive and inspiring. And it brought back some pretty good stuff. In the heart of silence, where dreams begin to whisper. I've seen this line come up a lot in ChatGPT. If you see anything written with the heart of silence or dreams whispering, it was generated by ChatGPT, I guarantee you. So I didn't like that. I kind of went back and forth a little bit. And where we ended up with was something with more straightforward and not so poetic, more like inspiring, basically. And we got this, which is the final result. I won't read it through because you've already heard it. But that's essentially what we went with. It didn't have a resolution. It sort of just ended on this: across every field and every endeavor we learn through our failures, we innovate by trying again and again. It didn't feel very final, so I got it to write me a sort of resolution, which worked a lot better. So the next step was to go over to 11 Labs, and 11 Labs is where I generated all of the voiceover. I think I used this voice, maybe. Let's try it.
The thing always happens that you really believe in.
Yeah, Brian's voice sounded like a sort of good narrator. In my first idea, I was going to have like multiple narrators, just to kind of like show off a little bit as to, you can use all these different voices, but I thought actually it worked better with one. It's quite short anyway. But then it was pretty much just a case of like copying and pasting these across. So generate speech.
From a small seed, growth begins.
That's the wrong voice.
The thing always happens that you really believe in, and the belief in a thing makes it happen. From a small seed, growth begins. This is how ideas start, fragile, yet full of potential.
And that's actually pretty good. But a lot of times I found that it kind of skipped over breaks and stuff. So although this is written properly, like a proper sentence, although there should be spaces there, you can actually mess around with the punctuation quite a lot in order to get like the gaps that you actually want. So for instance, it wouldn't make sense to put a colon there if you're reading it, but for generating the speech, it sounds pretty good.
From a small seed, growth begins. This is how ideas start, fragile, yet full of potential.
Yeah, it just adds like slightly more of a gap. And like if you do ellipsis, it will be longer and longer and so on and so forth. Notice it said it slightly differently as well. So I did a couple of takes on each of these in order to get the clip that I actually wanted, and have like kind of mix them up in the edit. But it was just a case of downloading those. And then I had a folder full of clips of audio. So over to Resolve. The first task was to lay down all of the audio for my video.
From a small seed, growth begins. This is how ideas start, fragile, yet full of potential. Innovation is like a young sapling.
So that was it. Just laying it all out, putting some gaps in, cutting some bits in and out. But that was basically it. And being an AI-generated voiceover, it's pretty consistent, pretty good. And so it could be on to the next stage, which is the visuals. As I mentioned, I was using Runway Gen3 for visuals, and this is a text-to-video model. And it's very, very powerful, and it's kind of a step up from previous generations. So I'll show you some of the assets that I created here. The kind of way I went about it really was to kind of look at some of this stuff that it generated, a young sapling bending in the wind, and then putting in some prompts as to what that should be. So let's have a look at all my exports, and then let's look at it like this. Here we go. So these are all like the goes that I've had it basically. So a small seed, here we go. Cinematic close-up shot, a time-lapse of a small seed breaking through rich dark soil bathed in soft morning light. And you'll notice that's quite descriptive. So instead of writing and just copying from the thing, what I actually did is go back to ChatGPT and have a separate chat going on. Let's find it. Where I had told it, or I basically pasted in the commands and like some of the instructions that Gen 3 has in order to get like the best videos. Like these are all the instructions. I basically gave it those instructions and was like, right, I want you to write me prompts. So I'm using a language model to write me prompts for a video model just by saying what I want in the shot. And not only that, I was sort of later on getting it to do variations. So it was like data overlay, animated doodles, color bursts. Like I would say I want some like B-roll around this topic, or I want like a character doing multiple different things. I could paste that in and then it would spit back a bunch of prompts for me to use. And then I could just copy and paste those straight into Gen 3 and get a bunch of them at the same time. So it took a while for them to generate. So this was quite a good technique because I could paste them in really, really quickly. And then it would start generating. And then I could like sift through them and decide which ones were good. In fact, a lot of them were good. They just have different like strange bits within them. So let's have a look at the seed one, for example. This is probably one of the better ones just because it's simple, it's organic. So there's stuff in there that just sort of makes sense. It's like blowing around. I think it was meant to be a time lapse. It was meant to be growing. I couldn't quite get that to work. Anything with humans is going to be a bit more odd, or like especially movement with hands. So here we go. There's like a kid like stacking some blocks. Doesn't look too bad, but this block is just shifting around, and another block appears. Another hand comes up. Hand fingers are looking a bit strange there. Very, very odd. But it doesn't matter because only a bit of that is what I need for the edit. And each of these is sort of between 5 and 10 seconds long. So let's have a look at another one, another kid one. There we go. Yeah, playing some blocks. They're appearing. They're going all mad, all weird. But I think for this clip, I just used like a little bit towards the end when the blocks are sort of falling down. I think that's the only bit I used, and it was fine for what I needed. There's lots of clips obviously in here that I didn't use, or I just used like a tiny section of. But then it was a case of downloading them all and working them into my edit. So we start at the beginning. Let's just make this a little bit bigger. Start at the beginning. We've got, in fact, let's solo that and mute it, and then we won't hear anything. So we've got our seed. We've got various seeds, things growing, some fast cuts. And what I found is that I would generate stuff and then I just wouldn't have enough content, or I'd have slightly wrong content. And this was really cool with this because like usually if you're doing B-roll using stock footage, and I would say this basically replaces stock footage for the purposes that I've been working on. It was pretty simple because rather than going on stock footage, buying more footage, or having to go out and film footage and you haven't got enough, it was like, oh, I need a clip here. And it'd be great if it was like that person doing this, or a continuation of this, and I could just go in there and get like 6 different results and try them all out. There is a cost associated to it. Like you have these credits that you have to use. I think they're like 100 credits per thing. So you're probably paying about £1 per shot or something like that currently, or $1, which isn't too much. And, you know, for just experimenting, that's fine. It would get quite expensive if you're doing like a lot of projects, a lot of big projects especially. But it's pretty cool. So back to this, we've got our clips. Different clips, and it was a case of like laying them down, like doing some rough edits. For some bits I've sort of did some overlays and like various effects and things. Some of those weren't generated, they were kind of just stock footage that I had. But yeah, once I had that, it was like a case of just laying them down and trying to build some little narratives. There's not a huge amount of consistency within this stuff. Like some of the colors and things work, so I try to kind of create some themes. So there's this like lab bit, which is probably the weakest section actually, because there's lots of like weird. I don't even know what that image is, but I kind of like the motion of it. Anything with text looks a bit weird. Some of this food stuff is kind of cool, but like if I show you the original, can I show you the original? There we go. Random utensil appears. Like, that's weird. But the first bit was fine. Like, just putting down a little bit of garnish on whatever this food is. It kind of works for my purposes. So yeah, you've got your like food section, and then you've got your like music section, and then like education section, and then out towards the end. So I tried to sort of do different sections, and a lot of stuff that ChatGPT generated in terms of like visuals, like some of it I went with, and some of it I went off and did my own thing. But there we go. Yeah, and then we found some music that's not AI generated. That's just like just a track.
They
found
build,
Epidemic.
they stumble, and
Tried a few different things. And then the next step was, to grade it and kind of make it look a bit more cohesive. But the really big selling effect, and this is kind of the same with any video really, was to do a bunch of sound design. And so let's jump over to the sound design panel. It's a bit small on the screen, but you can kind of get the idea. Lots and lots and lots of layers of sound design. And to me, that was the kind of thing that made it sell it really. Lots of like ambience, lots of like Foley effects, things that aren't necessarily sounds of stuff that you see in the scene, but I come from a sound design background, so I kind of had like a good idea of how to really like sell these like not real clips and how to like make them seem like they're real. But I mean, even when you're filming normal video, that's just something you have to do. So you've got these like, if I just mute the voiceover and the music, you've got some like ambience, like trees moving around a little bit, and then this like ticking sound, and then like various like rises and transitions. Yeah, I don't like this bit either. Like the images on the paper don't really make any sense. There you go, there's like a projector going there to kind of match the frame that I've given it. Good sounds. And I've got this like ticking motif going through the whole thing, which is kind of like it's like a Hans Zimmer kind of effect. Just like to keep the pace going and to give it this like rhythm throughout the whole thing. You don't like notice it's there necessarily, but you can't notice when it's gone, which is where I take it away for like the last little bit. So you'll see in a minute. Yeah, I decided not to do audio over these because it would get confusing with the actual music. And the ticking stops here. Well, it doesn't, it stops after this. There we go, little like ding out to the final bit. There we go, and then a final little piano hit on the end.
Grow, and we learn to change.
Nice. So that is the video. Some thoughts for you in terms of the video generation part, at least. It's not perfect. In fact, it's quite bad in a lot of ways, but there's usable stuff in there. And in a pinch, if you need a bit of video, something really specific, then it is quite good. I didn't have too many issues with like diversity and different representation of people within there. You can direct it to a certain extent, but I did find by default it was giving me quite a variation of people and characters. I get the feeling it's trained on quite a lot of stock footage, which tends to have a good amount of diversity anyway. So I didn't find that to be too much of an issue. The biggest issue, however, that I found overall, like any AI generated thing, is direction. Is getting it to change something or giving it like a specific bit of direction. It's quite good at things like camera moves, it's quite good at things like colors, but if you want something happening and it's not doing it, like it's quite hard to sort of get it to do the thing that you're imagining. Certain movements, especially like people picking things up, anything to do with hands, like it gets those wrong a lot of the time. And doesn't follow the instructions some of the time as well. So you have to kind of like go with what it gives you and then like follow that a little bit more, which I guess is a bit like when you download stock footage. That's it for now. Hopefully you found that interesting. I am very open for discussion on this, so please get in contact if you've got any questions, queries, qualms, or theories. I'd love to know what you think we could do with this. See you next time.